You can see the scourge of fentanyl in our community on almost every street corner. The human toll is staggering. Overdose deaths have exploded in recent years as those dangerous opioids have just poured over our southern border. New data, though, shows something pretty surprising. Fentanyl seizures on the border have dropped significantly. So, for investigator Ryan Laughlin joins us again. You were recently at the border to see how things are going, to see specifically how the changes enacted down there are impacting the drug trade.
Yeah, it's really hard to say just yet how the whole picture is being affected. We do know that the Trump administration has sent thousands of troops to patrol this new military zone. That's been a huge focus for us, a big change that's happening down there. And while prosecuting trespassers in this new military zone has proven tough, data shows fentanyl seizures are one of many stats that show some of the crossings and problems there are way, way down. According to the Washington Post, fentanyl seizures at the border are down almost 30% for the first half of the fiscal year. The drop in seizures is one piece to a really complex drug trade picture. That, with the combined data that overdose deaths are dropping, they dropped in 2024 for the first time since 2018. That could mean that perhaps demand for this drug is finally decreasing. It could also mean that drug smugglers are just finding new ways to get the drugs into the U.S. Could also mean there might be a disruption to the supply chain for the ingredients to make fentanyl. However, this guy, Mike Vigil, an Espanola native and former chief of the international operations for the DEA, says there's a far more likely explanation that has very little to do with the United States.
There's an ongoing conflict between members of the Sinaloa cartel, which began on September 9th. This has disrupted the production and distribution of fentanyl, given the fact that Sinaloa cartel is the world's largest producer of illegal fentanyl.
So Vigil also says the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, has taken advantage of this cartel infighting and has really applied some pressure from the government there. He sees that as the #1 reason why we're seeing fewer fentanyl seizures.
Now, we are also seeing fewer illegal border crossings. Do we have any data showing that maybe that's contributing to the slower crossing of fentanyl?
Hard to say one thing is exactly leading to the other. We do know that those illegal border crossings are down, but he says that might not be related to the fentanyl crossings because most of this drug comes through legal ports of entry.
Right.
He also says that it's not migrants smuggling a majority of the drugs. He says there's examples of people with backpacks with drugs, but a majority of this is coming through legal ports of entry. Sometimes U.S. citizens are paid to smuggle this stuff in. And he says there's a network of underground tunnels in Arizona and California that they've been trying to clamp down on. He says those are the areas where most of these drugs are coming in.
You brought up the cartels and how the Mexican administration is kind of taking a different approach with them. You know, the Trump administration has declared them terrorist organizations. Do we have any idea of what the impact is there, if there is one?
Vigil was really vocal about this one.
Okay.
He says by declaring them a terrorist organization, it grabs more headlines than drug kingpins. And he says there's a good reason for that. He says operationally, it empowers the government to seize bank accounts and to disallow people from entering the country, but he says it doesn't really empower us to go into Mexico, and the people that are really in charge of the cartels, they don't have U.S. bank accounts and they're not interested in coming to the U.S. anyway.
Yeah,
so he doesn't say that that's really putting a finger on the scale one way or the other.
All right, Ryan, you're going to have a much closer look at the changes that we have seen at the border so far. That's coming up tomorrow here on KOB4 at 6, including an up-close look at how the military deployment that you mentioned is looking there right now. So we'll look forward to that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.